Hey guys, welcome back to the Bombastic StarLeague Season 21, the non-Korean Championship. Joining me in the caster booth today, none other than RZZZero. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, Jean. Looking forward to some of the Chinese involvement here now, right? This is a tournament we've put together because the Chinese kind of not really a part of the BSL, the main stage BSL anymore, but they are still like top competitors, top foreigners, right? And we like to see how our top non-Asians basically compete against the top from China. So I always enjoyed this part of the tournament, largely because we get to see a lot of Mihu. Honestly, like anybody that's a Terran fan is going to be a big Mihu fan. He is probably the best foreign Terran in the world right now. So
by far, yeah,
really looking forward. And as we see, we get Sziky versus Mihu today, so pretty hype actually.
Yeah, we are starting it off with a PvP though. We got that QiaoGege going up against Dewalt to kick things off. But yeah, there's a couple of players I would say is missing. It would be really fun if we had Zanhun and Zhao Shui here as well. They're really good players, but pretty much all of these guys are super sick. DuGu and XuanXuan, they're both really good players as well. I think we're going to have some really fantastic matches, and I'm glad that Zero's doing this as a kind of like a happy medium where we haven't got them on the main stage in the BSL, but we actually get to have some games between them and the top foreigners at the same time.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing a couple of new names for me personally anyway. I don't know DuGu and I don't know XuanXuan, so especially with XuanXuan being a Terran player, so I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing what kind of style he brings to the table, and we get him against Bonyth early as well. So yeah, there's just a lot of high quality games. It's basically like top 4 BSL quality players for the entire tournament.
I think actually XuanXuan and DuGu are actually two of the youngest Chinese top level players, if I'm not mistaken. They're both pretty good, but they are the youngest guys, so maybe having a little bit less experience than someone like me who's like, I don't know, was he like 36, 37 now?
Okay, that's young for StarCraft still, kind of. I mean, that's like the average, the late 30s.
Yeah, whereas this XuanXuan and QiaoGege and DuGu are like 27-ish, I think.
Oh, that's very young actually for StarCraft. Yeah,
27, 28, I think. Yeah.
It's newborns.
Fresh out of the womb, essentially, in StarCraft terms.
Yeah.
These guys are pretty young. Almost 10 years junior of players like me, who's kind of insane, but they are very good players as well. We just don't usually see too much from them.
Yeah, XuanXuan with a pretty high ladder stats. He was like 59-26 or something, so obviously a very solid player. But yeah, looking forward to the quality of the Chinese players here today, kind of seeing how they compare against, our best, essentially.
Yeah, I have a feeling that it's going to be pretty hard. I think most of these Chinese players are probably going to get the better end of the stick against some of our guys, but there might be some surprises in there as well. But I do think Mihu especially is going to have an absolute field day with some of these guys. I hope that Sziky's playing on his A game and can really bring it today and maybe get a game off of him.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the results for sure. Comparing it to last season too, Mihu, he did end up in the losers bracket in the last non-Korean championship, but he kind of steamrolled his way through, beat Dewalt 3-2, and actually lost to Bonyth. I think it was 5-4 or 4-3, whatever the best of was, and basically lost by 1 game, and that was with Bonyth having that 1 game lead. So Mihu, of course, and we all kind of know it, right? Mihu's going to be that guy to really watch out for coming out of China. But yeah, well, I'm very, very curious to see what level the rest of these guys play at.
Yeah, I kind of want to get stuck into it right away. So if you don't mind, let's just jump straight into game number 1, guys. Dewalt versus QiaoGege on Radeon. Let's get it. Spawning here in the top right, representing Russia, the blue Protoss, Dewalt.
Was that Dewalt blue? So we actually have Dewalt here in the bottom left, I believe,
my bad,
as our red Protoss player here. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so we got QiaoGege up there in the top right as the blue Protoss representing China, and his opponent in the bottom left gonna be that red Protoss Dewalt.
Yeah, starting off with a classic PvP here. We've seen plenty of this between Dewalt and Bonyth, but we really didn't get much PvP this season of BSL, right? It's a lot of PvZ and ZVZ, and so Yeah, I'm actually like not what's the word, like usually when I'm seeing PvP in a tournament right now, I'm like sick of it because I've watched Bonyth and Dewalt play each other so many times, but we haven't really had them playing each other, so I'm good for some PvP today.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to mix up a little bit. Been a while since I casted some PvP. Let's see, it is cross map as well, so it's possible we'll have a bit of a drawn out game here on Radiant. It's a pretty darn big map. Like, what was it, 38 seconds rush distance, ramp to ramp's kind of insane.
We're getting a 12 Nexus.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Well, some good old Chinese cheese in the way of economy coming straight out of the gate here from QiaoGege, man. This is some greedy stuff, and he's going to get away with it. I don't think you can punish this cross map.
Yeah, Dewalt's going to be opening normal, right? Even with 10-12, it's actually kind of hard because of the travel distance, but with it being cross-spawn and Dewalt opening up normal, and he's going for that Zealot as well, there's not really going to be any punishment options, I don't believe, for Dewalt. A common response is you'll see like a proxy pylon for Reaver pushing, but I'm really curious to see how Dewalt wants to handle this. I know what Bonyth kind of taught me about it when I was asking him about it, which was that proxy Reaver.
Okay.
Just kind of crawl and push. So yeah.
Is that the only thing you can do, or can you like also do like proxy second and third gate, or is that not an option?
I think it doesn't work very well because of cannons, and they just get their gateway count up pretty high, and then you're just like, they'll cut probes and they can just mass more units, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to do something, though, right? Like you can't play a normal game from here. So he's gonna get that last scout as well because he did in scout did Dewalt. So this is gonna really suck for him. Honestly, he's gonna get the bad news here in about another 10-15 seconds, and even the Zealot's actually coming across the map. So I guess he's aware this is a possibility that he could be going for something greedy. So he might get a little bit of value here at least.
Yeah, who knows? But if anything's going to get emotion out of Dewalt, it might be something like this. You know, you might get a slight lip parting and head tilt once he sees this, but he could still get some damage done with the Zealot making its way into the natural now.
Yeah. Hopefully we get a probe or two goes Dewalt. But at least going to interrupt the mining a little bit. Zealot's going to come out and join this now. But this buys him a little bit of time, but there's no proxy pylon going down or anything right now. The probe just about goes down, but does at least get it out. Gets one probe, gets inside, and there should be a goon behind us. So the Zealot's actually going to be alive for a little bit. And there comes the cannons. We actually have a second gateway here pretty quickly from Dewalt. And that actually kind of sucks, I think.
I'm actually a little bit surprised that QiaoGege went out chasing that probe with the first Zealot. I thought he would go back into the main with that. I guess he was worried about a follow-up Zealot in case it was like 10-12 or something. But I don't think this is quite enough damage from Dewalt yet. He's killed like 2 probes, lost a little bit of mining time for QiaoGege as well. I don't think that's quite enough to negate the Nexus first, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, QiaoGege has done a really good job of rotating his probe so he doesn't lose any. I think it is just the one that died to the Zealot so far, and like no real losses. He's got the additional mining, right? The additional probes, the mineral smoothing, and it looks like from Dewalt's side, he's just gonna try to mass goons off of 2 gate from the cross spawn, but that's tough, man, because he's gonna get a scout here with this probe potentially. Yeah, and it looks like Dewalt's moving past it. That's actually a big problem for Dewalt, or sorry, the Zealot here. So he's gonna see the gateway count, and he's gonna see continuous goons, and all he needs to do is just make more cannons.
Yeah, because if he was on like only 1 or 2 cannons, maybe you can break this. But if he scouts it and goes up to like 3 cannons, I don't think that's going to be so successful anymore. And he might even lose a little bit of mining time, potentially a probe here as well. Trying to drill that Zealot, but he does lose 1 probe to it, already taking counter damage.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
And some big mistakes here from Dewalt, not paying much attention to his army there. Lost a goon, took a lot of damage on the next 2 goons, and we see the additional gateways coming down from QiaoGege. We see the additional cannon as well, so this is kind of what I meant. Okay, it looks like Dewalt's going to just try to Nexus out of this, but he's so far behind, John.
He's super far behind, man. He's going to try and Templar it up. He's got a Citadel on the way, but it's very painful for Dewalt. There's just no way of cutting it nicely. He's just straight up behind. And he's going to be behind in economy, behind in unit production. The only thing he's got going for him is he might be slightly ahead of curve on tech with that Citadel, but that might not be enough to claw his way out of that hole.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he wants to go for something like either Storm Drop or maybe even a DT Drop. Sometimes you can rush a DT Drop. Okay, we're going to get triple Nexus. So this is how I used to respond to this. It didn't work at my like performance level, we'll say. But I'm really
Right.
curious to see Dewalt go for this. The only issue I see with it is that the beginning went like really bad for Dewalt. It wasn't like he forced a lot of cannons, didn't really lose any units or anything. He lost a goon and took a lot of damage on a couple other goons, and that's the part that really concerns me, because this next version of goons from QiaoGege is going to come out long before Dewalt's ready to have his eco online.
Yeah, he's had to cut quite a lot of production to afford all this. Maybe he's going to rely on Dark Templars for map control to stop QiaoGege from just coming out onto the map right away with the superior Dragoon count. Maybe that's the aim of the game here for Dewalt. It's going to be super tough though, man.
Yeah, that is actually a smart response from Dewalt.
I think so.
Yeah, because I think that's exactly what his plan is here. He's going to make these DTs to help defend himself, and essentially hope that this is a skipping observer type play. A little bit of a slow reaction from Dewalt, so these goons are going to get jumped on pretty close before he starts backpedaling. So all of these goons going to fall from Dewalt, and he's going to have these DTs coming out to defend, but there's going to be units potentially running around all of his bases.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like QiaoGege could just kind of ignore that there's DTs there and kind of run past them and still get damage done. He's going to pylon block the ramp here at the 6 o'clock, which is smart, so at least the Dragoons can't get in there to do damage. Yeah, it's not a bad response from Dewalt though, because there is going to be no detection for a while from QiaoGege, but he can just ignore the DTs a little bit and try and get some probe damage still, if he wanted to.
Yeah, looks like that's what he's going to try for, but yeah, this is actually very, very smart from Dewalt. So he's going to have a chance to catch up now. He's going to have the triple Nexus bumping. He's going to have the better middle smithing, so we should see an explosion of gateways coming out behind this. He knows that these DTs, essentially, they have no purpose outside of defending this initial push. These are just purely for buying him time. And yeah, there's the Robo going to be coming down, his own Citadel, and yeah, the extra gateways here from Dewalt.
Now, QiaoGege, if I'm not wrong, is actually quite fond of shuttles and Templars. So I think in a lot of these PvP situations, he might be circumnavigating, going for Reavers at all. He might try and go straight into Storms with shuttles pretty much every time. It seems like he's going for something like that here as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential. Definitely not going to be going for that Reaver. And I think if this, the way this game kind of played out, that it makes sense that neither player wants to go for Reaver.
Yeah, I mean, Storm is technically superior to Reaver. It's just a slower timing, right? So
yeah,
if you can go straight into Storm, you pretty much want to, unless you're a god tier gamer with Reaver control like Bonyth or Snow or something. I mean, this isn't terrible for Dewalt. I think this is one of the best case scenarios for him, given how bad the early game was. And he's kind of like, he lost the first round of the rock, paper, scissors, but now he's kind of won the second round. He's got 3 bases mining. He has total map control for the time being. That's going to very quickly change as soon as these observers start to pop out from QiaoGege. There's the first one. But this is honestly not terrible for Dewalt. This could be like game ending potentially, and instead it's now a very playable game state where he's actually got a pretty respectable economy now.
Yeah, I would say this is looking great for Dewalt. Like, he's only up 1 worker, right? So you would maybe think that the eco is relatively even, but with that better mineral smithing, right? He's actually outmining QiaoGege by a lot for a pretty long time now. So we see now he's starting to catch back up in supply, and there's going to be a bit of an explosion in supply. When QiaoGege is going to drop this Nexus, by the time this is ready to start mining, Dewalt's probably going to have a pretty significant supply lead. He's getting into his own Storm tech, he's getting legs now. And once you get into this stage of the game, I actually really enjoyed these army compositions so much more, where it's like Zealot, Storm, Archon, Goon, and just like a whole bunch of like battling and fighting, as opposed to like the Reaver shenanigans. Yeah,
that gives me like nostalgia to the early days of StarCraft. That was pretty much the unit composition of choice most of the time. You didn't really see Reavers a whole lot. It was almost always like Speed Zealots, Dragoons, and Archons and Storm, and I'd like to see that here as well.
Yeah. It's much more relatable for a lot of the lower MMR Protoss players a game like this, because if you ever watch like B-rank PvP or C-rank PvP, it's usually like split map, like Arbiter stasis, like craziness like that. So these army compositions are at least a bit more relatable.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Dewalt this game. Like, I think a lot of Protoss players would have had a hard time navigating their way out of that early game deficit. And he's done a fantastic job of putting himself into, honestly, quite a favorable position. They're even on supply. He's got 10 more workers. There is going to be an army lead for QiaoGege, but the fact that he's got loads of storms available himself, I think that Dewalt has a really strong shot at winning this game. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think there's still going to be a supply lead for QiaoGege in terms of his army supply, but it's very quickly closing on QiaoGege right now. Like, Dewalt is catching up in a very quick fashion.
Yeah, I would say the game state is like lightly Dewalt favored. He is actually pretty far behind an army supply, which is kind of surprising right now. He has up 12 workers, so his eco's kind of insane. I don't know that he can defend this base though. He's having to come back because his DT is pushing away these Templar, and he doesn't want to lose his Templar, so he's not going to be able to defend this 6 o'clock base, John.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to try, but he's kind of trickling units in to an already established arc. You never really want to have to do that. A really good use of just one single DT from QiaoGege, using the Observer advantage against Dewalt in a big way. Does kill one of the High Templars in the backline with that Warp Blade as well. Going after another beautiful control from QiaoGege, just siphoning off as much of the splash damage from Dewalt as he can. Now also targeting those High Templars with his Dragoons. Pretty good storms are landing from Dewalt, but he's probably going to lose this 6 o'clock base. QiaoGege actually has to kind of make a decision. Do I want to fight the army or kill the base? Looks like he wants to stay and fight the army more. He's only got like 1 or 2 units at the 6 o'clock position. I think that there's just slightly too much army supply for QiaoGege. There's more and more reinforcements streaming across the map. So even though this fight looked like it was okay for Dewalt to begin with, I think that's going to quickly change once all these zealots start streaming in.
Yeah, Dewalt kind of pushing this back, but like you said, the 6 o'clock base is done. He's going to survive here, but with that base going down and QiaoGege's finishing, he's just extremely far behind now. So it would have been unfortunate for Dewalt, right? The Observer timing was maybe 15-20 seconds too late, and that small mistake cost him an entire base and potentially the game here. It's going to be very, very hard to play it out from here.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I think PvP is actually QiaoGege's best matchup. I could be wrong about that, but I think I was looking at his profile earlier today. I think that he had a higher win rate versus Protoss, so not too surprised to see him play such a strong game here against Dewalt. It's a shame that he lost that base at the 6. Look, that one DT changed everything just because Dewalt didn't have an Observer, man.
Yeah, and I do want to credit QiaoGege for recognizing that, right? He recognized that there was an Observer missing, and he immediately understood what he needed to do, right? To threaten the Templar with that DT makes it where Dewalt has to make such a tough decision. Do I come out and try to defend this base and lose all my Templar, or do I just forfeit the base, right? So, yeah, it was a really nice kind of recognition and putting the pressure on Dewalt there.
Yeah. He's got another 3rd base up here at the natural 3rd location, but he's so far behind the curve now. And they're even on workers, so QiaoGege already been mining ahead of Dewalt in this game. Pretty big engagement in the center now, but there's so many High Templars for our Chinese Protoss right now, and he's getting great blankets on top of those units of Dewalt. He actually hasn't got a lot of Dragoons, has QiaoGege, but he's got so many speed lots which are just tanking all of the Dragoons of Dewalt and forcing him into retreat. There is a bit of a drop here from Dewalt at the natural 3rd location, trying to get some massive storm damage on that probe line. He is going to kill pretty much every single probe there. That's some good compensation.
Yeah, that's great for Dewalt being able to hold on here and get that storm damage down. So now he's back up in the economy again, and still pretty far behind in the army supply, but as long as he can hold on here, then maybe he can actually stabilize and make this game work out for him. Oh, that's a big storm though.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. And a counterattack at the natural 3rd of Dewalt as well. He's losing the cannons there. So while he's holding the line at this natural location, he's going to start taking some heavy losses at his natural 3rd base. And QiaoGege has an insurance policy behind this. He's taken the 12 o'clock as his 4th base, just in case he can't quite get the nails into Dewalt's coffin right now. Dewalt hanging on strong, but it's looking a little bit dire.
Yeah, and when the dust settles, it's actually surprisingly even in a lot of areas right now. And with all these reinforcing zealots coming out from Dewalt, he should be fine. Gotta be worried, careful not to lose these High Templar. Zealots are very, very good as long as there's not Archons around, right? But it looks like GG is going to be called, not going to be able to hold on there, and QiaoGege going to take this first game here against Dewalt. And I believe every game today is a 2-game series, right?
Yeah. So they're not playing a best of 3 necessarily. That each player is going to be playing 2 games against their opponent, and those points will be going on the board to decide where they go in the brackets later on towards the end of the event. So the first slot goes all the way through to the winner bracket finals. Slots 2 go through to the semi-finals winner bracket, and then slots 3 and 4 go through to the quarterfinals winner bracket, and a similar case for the loser bracket for the bottom 4 players.
Yeah, I think it's 5th and 6th go to losers bracket, and then the last 2 I think are out of the tournament.
Okay. Yeah, pretty brutal group stage, honestly. It's not going to be easy. But there is a way of clawing your way back if you make it into like a 5th or 6th position. You just got to get as many wins on the board as possible.
Yeah, well, we saw it from Mihu last season, right? He was actually he started off in the losers bracket and clawed his way all the way back, just barely qualifying to get into that round, the group stages, right? So, but yeah, you know, like I was saying, but basically all these players, man, it's such a high quality, you know, level, right? It's like top 4. It's basically, like I said earlier, it's like the semifinals for BSL, but it's 8 players at that level.
Yeah, I don't think it really gets much higher level than this outside of Korea, to be honest with you. This is pretty crazy.
Yeah, cream of the crop. It's unfortunate that Crossy couldn't join it. I'd love to see how he would fare in a championship like this.
Yeah, I just double checked myself, by the way. I was right. It is QiaoGege that has a much higher PvP win record than his other 2 matchups. Like he's almost he's almost 50% in Terran and Zerg, and against Protoss he's like 56.5. So definitely favoring this matchup, it seems.
Well, kind of shows a little bit of a kind of a ballsy strategy coming out in game 1 against Dewalt, dropping a 12 Nexus, right? Like, if that's what you're showing on game 1, then you're kind of already letting everybody know you're a little bit of a wild card in your PvP at least.
Yeah, but next map going to be Litmus, so there's going to be a lot more gas available to both players on just a couple of bases. But I don't think you're going to be getting away with a 12 Nexus here, so maybe Dewalt can find himself into a much more favorable starting position to kick things off.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't recommend a 12 Nexus on a 2-player map PvP. That sounds like suicide, but yeah, I'm curious to see. I don't think I've really seen like any PvP on this map, so I'm actually really interested to see if this gets navigated, like how much different it is from a normal map.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing a PvP on this map, at least at a competitive level either, so I'm super curious as well. Let's jump straight into it. We're going to go into game number 2 now. Dewalt versus QiaoGege on Litmus. Spawning here in the top right. Gonna get it right this time. From Russia, we have Love Dewalt, the red Protoss.
And his opponent here in the blue from China, we have QiaoGege, currently up 1-0.
So yeah, QiaoGege, the name kind of means like big brother Chow, and Chow kind of translates to Joe, which is why you'll see this guy on the ID BSL Joe. But yeah, it's kind of hard to get all these Chinese players' names right, but we do our best.
Yeah, I have a friend that kind of helps me with the pronunciation. And there's a lot of times where like she'll say it, I'll say it, she'll say it, I'll say it, and then I'll be like, you know what? I hear the difference. My mouth can't make those sounds, so we're just gonna go with good enough.
Yeah, it's one thing that really impresses me with Chinese speakers. They have like such a wide variation of like intonations to their syllables, and it's honestly quite insane.
Yeah, I've had those moments too where she'll tell me a word and I'll say it, and she'll say it back to me, and I'll be like, "That's what I said," and she's like, "Yeah, you didn't put enough emphasis on the right syllables." I was like, "Well, you're gonna have to get over that."
Yeah. Well, let's hope the world remains a stable place and we don't all have to learn Chinese, or we're going to be in trouble, boys.
Yeah. I've learned about 20 Chinese words in about 3 years, so progress is a bit slow over here.
Yeah. I think we started too late, Ozzy. I think if you want to learn new languages, it's best to start when you're in your youth and your brain is still like a pliable sponge.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. My problem is, I feel like I've taken brain damage from playing Terran for the last couple of years, so it's like there's nothing I can do anymore, dude.
It's all downhill from here, buddy. Just look at our toasters, man. Well, Dewalt in the main base with a very quick probe scalp and a little bit of pressure, but he is sacrificing economy to do this, right? Like, this is 50 minerals a minute he's not getting because of this probe scout. At least he can optimize his build relative to what his opponent's doing, and he's kind of desperate to get a little bit of harass damage with his probe to compensate for sacrificing that much economy. You usually don't want to scout that early on a 2-player map, but Dewalt, I guess, doesn't want any surprises this time around.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. He doesn't want to get caught off guard by anything, wants to be able to kind of adapt properly to what QiaoGege is doing, and it looks like Dewalt did at least identify what he was doing, so he skipped that first Zealot. That might be part of why he did this early scout as well. It's like accepting the mineral loss, but also taking a little shortcut to kind of cut the difference.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think it's good. It's a good way of like optimizing. You're losing a bit of mining time from sending out that probe, but as long as you can kind of min-max your build order relative to what the other guy's doing, it's not too bad. Seems like QiaoGege very confident in himself. He's not even bothering to scout this game at all.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah. I hate playing against people like this, where it's like you start to feel like they're just doing things they're not supposed to do all the time. And it's like, as the player,
away with it.
Yeah, it can be kind of aggravating sometimes as a player, where it's like, can you not cut some corners at least? Like, why is there always got to be something, you know?
Well, if no one's punishing him, I guess he can keep doing it until someone finally catches on and starts metagaming him, right? Looks like we got is that a robo towards the ramp there? Gonna get ready to maybe slug it out with some Reavers and take a reasonably timed expansion this game. And likewise for QiaoGege here, he's got his own robo towards that ramp, and actually QiaoGege being super safe right now. He's sending a probe to the back of his base. I don't know if he's going to proxy anything there, or if he's just sending it down there to check for any shenanigans like a Zealot being glitched over.
It's interesting because both players checked right around the same time, so I wonder if there's like specifically a timing that they were kind of keeping an eye on. Like you said, maybe that Zealot coming through the backside could be potentially like that. And because QiaoGege didn't really get any information, he does have to kind of cover everything as well. We see Dewalt enjoying a very slight probe lead, but I mean, 3 probes this early, actually not too bad. Part of that coming up from the skipping the Zealot, right? So he doesn't have to cut any probes in the beginning. And then it looks like he's just being better about not skipping any Zealots here. It does mean that QiaoGege is going to have a little bit more of a threat in that armor, but that army, but with mirror builds, it shouldn't be too bad, although it's 2-gate versus... Okay, it's 3-gate, actually.
Yeah, I was about to say, when you finish speaking, that I think one of the big reasons there's such a low probe count for QiaoGege is because he's investing in these early gateways. They've both gone for Observer, but I mean, 1 gateway compared to 3 is a pretty sizable difference. And a 3-gate Goon with Observer, it's a pretty safe way of being aggressive, right? You're not really hyper punished by the DT anymore. It does kind of delay the timing of your attack, but if you want to be aggressive without being totally all in, this is probably one of the best ways of doing it.
This is actually going to be a scary moment for Dewalt, because the timing of this is going to hit pre-Reaver, and what ends up happening is you can get stuck on your ramp for a very, very long time against the heavy Goon count that can end up at your natural. He's going to go for this Nexus. This is going to be tight. He might have to cancel this Nexus.
Yeah, he does. This is such a well-timed out attack from QiaoGege. He's hitting before the Reaver right as Dewalt is trying to set up his natural expansion. So no matter what happens, Dewalt is going to be behind, because at the bare minimum he has to cancel this, but he also has to get back to the safety of his ramp. Already has lost 1 Dragoon, now a second for the price of just 1 Dragoon so far. Reaver barely getting to the ramp and starting to build scabs. Does get 1 good connection off, but he's pretty much losing every other unit that he's got right now. It's going to be so tough to hold the ramp when you've got no Dragoons to buffer.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting some pretty decent Reaver shots, but not quite going to be enough. Zealot held on forever, and yeah, we're going to get up this ramp with these 2 goons. We got 3 more reinforcing goons on the way from QiaoGege. We have a big worker lead advantage, right, for Dewalt, but it doesn't matter because we're going to have to fight with these workers to try and hold on, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold on. Yeah, VG going to be called. QiaoGege going to win 2-0 here.
Wow, I mean,
guys.
I guess it makes sense that QiaoGege has a better win rate in Protoss, so you look pretty fantastic against Dewalt. And I think if you're going to go for a 12 Nexus, Radiant probably put the best map for something like that, so I don't hate it from him either. He got a little bit lucky with the last scout from Dewalt and, you know, cross map, but yeah, I actually like how this guy's played, and this was super smart from him in game number 2 on Litmus. Not only not scouting at all, but he covered his bases, made sure there wasn't any cheekiness with Zealots being drilled over in the back line, built a pylon there. and followed up with a very safe aggression style with the 3-gate observer, and perfectly countered what Dewalt was trying to set up.
Yeah, it's a shame. I'm a big fan of the crawl expand that Dewalt was going for. It's probably one of my favorite builds in PvP, but yeah, it's such a tough call to make because it's like you want to defend the Nexus because if you go up your ramp, it's kind of a nightmare to get back down the ramp, right? Because there's going to be so many goons down there and they can Nexus behind that. And yeah, even though you have like the worker advantage, it doesn't do much for if you can't get down your ramp. So yeah, it's tough. It's a hard call for Dewalt.
Yeah, I take my hat off to QiaoGege, man. That was some of the best PvP we've